going on, guys? Today I'll be doing my top 10 80s movies. These are my personal favorites, so we will definitely not have the same 10 80s movies in my top 10 list. And I'm up for filling discussion down in the comments below if you disagree with some of my picks and your favorite movie didn't make the cut. We could discuss, and hey, you may even change my mind, because that has happened. I have changed and modified this list several different times, just rewatching it, just changing my thoughts. Before I start the top 10, like and subscribe. And if you've already done that, thank you. Your support is very much appreciated. Now with that being the way, let's begin with the top 10 80s movies. Coming in at number 10.
Raging Bull. A triumph of a film, Scorsese has had a long and distinguished career along with the film's lead, Robert De Niro. This film showcases both of these film legends at their very best. It's hard to say what exactly this film is about. The narrative plot is straightforward enough. It follows the life of a 1940s and 1950s boxer. The movie also explores many of the complex issues of violence against women and the psychological destruction of a man who cannot accept or understand intimacy. The real magic is that these issues are expressed through the warped psychological outbursts of De Niro's character. Everyone around LaMotta can see his problem, his unhealthy obsession and suspicion, but he cannot help himself. The film finds expression through the emotional immaturity of the lead character. LaMotta cannot introspectively evaluate his emotions. His thought process is endlessly fascinating to watch as he warps any act of kindness or love into betrayal and distance. He lacks the emotional maturity or awareness to communicate his frustrations to words. The audience simply watches as any small act or suspicion is a window for him to confirm what he wants most of all: confirmation that his partner is unfaithful and by extension he is himself unworthy. His hate is a profound one, not a hate of others or what he attacks, but a hatred of himself. Everyone around him senses it, but LaMotta simply cannot. The film delivers the signature eye for detail that made Scorsese famous. The boxing fight scenes are brilliant and brutal. The supporting cast is also excellent.
Number 9. Die Hard. This is a well-arranged film from beginning to end. The screenplay with John McClane on the plane sets up small details about him that make sense as you watch the movie. This is crucial to what happens later on. There are lines of dialogue between people in the beginning of the film that mean a lot later on in the movie. The action and stunt work is simply outstanding.
Number 8. Amadeus. I agree with the characterization of this movie. It is not a story about Mozart, but about Salieri. We do receive an intimate portrait of who Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is, but from the point of view of an old man who finds himself and his life's work dissolving and becoming forgotten in the passage of time. We find poor Salieri in an asylum after attempting suicide, giving his confession to a priest who patiently listens to Salieri's battle with God. As a young man, he prays for the gift of divine music, and providence seems to open up to him, until he encounters a man who is a mockery of everything he is, yet channels the divine muse. Finding himself nothing more than a mediocrity, we see how his soul descends into a murderous jealousy against Mozart, and a righteous rage against God. Upon concocting a plan to steal Mozart's glory, Salieri finds himself defeated by God himself, who would rather destroy his messenger rather than allow him, Salieri, to share in God's glory. Consigned to a world where he must now witness his defeat, he realizes in an apparent reconciliation with God and himself that his role is one of patron saint of mediocrities everywhere. It is a compelling character study, not so much of Mozart, but of Salieri, and indeed anyone who finds himself or herself in the existential crisis of having one's life work fade before their eyes. The music and cinematography is beyond outstanding. The screenplay is leisurely, but not at all slow or plodding. The editing between the past and the present is truly a work of art. Number 7. The Princess Bride. So, when I did research for this video, I had not watched this movie in 5 years, and when I first watched it, I honestly wasn't a big fan of it. But, I knew I had to research all the supposed best 80s movies of all time, so I wanted to rewatch it again to see if my opinion changed, and boy did it change. Watching it now, it really is a fantastic, well-rounded adventure film. The funny thing is noticing as I'm older, there are some elements that could be questionable, namely that the directing and music can be a bit basic and pedestrian, and there's an overall feeling of camp to a lot of it. I also never noticed before that the actual plot of the villain is a bit convoluted. But the thing is, none of that matters. In fact, it's almost part of the charm. The comedy works. The adventure works. The sense of fun just works. The camp is part of the charm, and all you need to know about the story is beat the bad guy and true love conquers all. It's a great introduction to adventure stories for kids with just a bit of edginess, and watching it years later, it's just an entertaining movie. Number 6. Paris, Texas. It's a great movie about losing yourself both physically and mentally and not knowing what to do when times get really tough. It's a movie about the transformation of a particular individual who you think would never get his stuff together. It's also a movie about love and friendship and being a loving parent and doing what's right. All in all, it was a fantastic movie with a slow pace and a telling story. So here's a warning: if you're not really into slow-paced movies and you're more into big action sequences, go watch Transformers. Stick to that and you'll be fine. Number 5.
Terminator. I appreciate the early work of James Cameron. He brought a lot of liveliness and imagination into all of his early sci-fi action hits. This is one of the greatest combo genre movies. What I mean by that is that you could classify the film as a horror, action, and of course sci-fi. It goes across several distinct genres while being steady from start to finish. It doesn't feel like we're moving away from the mood of the movie. It stays true to what it is while going off into separate things. It has the Terminator going around murdering humans in the order of the phone book, while also having the scene where the Terminator is cutting his eye out. Those scenes would be something you would see in a horror movie.
Number 4.
Aliens. There are two different types of people in this world. People that favor Alien and people that favor aliens. I'm unquestionably an Aliens person. This is the second James Cameron film on this list. Aliens is James Cameron's best film of the 80s in my opinion, but The Terminator is a close second. Aliens has plenty of action and thriller scenes throughout the movie. I admire the concept of how they're enclosed by the aliens overtaking them. The technology on this film was revolutionary at the time and it still stands out today. I like that Sigourney Weaver's Ripley is portrayed as the noble soldier and the protective character.
Number 3.
Back to the Future. I'm a sucker for a good time travel story with excellent comedy. This is an interesting idea for a film. It's about a high school student from 35 years ago going back to his parents' time in high school. Marty McFly sees his parents from a different perspective in the past. The screenplay is arranged in a great way with small details that you will miss when watching for the first time. Robert Zemeckis clearly knew what he was doing when he directed this movie. The overall cast was remarkable. All of the jokes are executed perfectly, and the intended emotional scenes made the audience feel the way that the director wanted them to feel.
Number 2.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. For me, this is one of the best adventure films in cinema history. The timing of the film is executed well. The world in this movie is enjoyable with an amazing protagonist. There are so many iconic scenes and dialogue. I adore the stunt work in the movie as well. The chase segment is a great example of stunt work at its best. This is one of my all-time favorite movies, but as shocked as you may be right now, hear me say this. It gets better in the 80s.
Before we get to my number 1 pick, here are a few quick honorable mentions. Stand By Me, Glory, Elephant Man, Full Metal Jacket, and Ghostbusters. Number 1.
Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back does what all the classic sequels do. It does not reuse the first movie, it elaborates the folklore. It takes the characters to new locations both literally and figuratively. It explains a separate type of story, while A New Hope is about this assorted group of individuals joining forces to save a leader princess and demolish a weapon. Empire Strikes Back is about that group breaking up and going into hiding, whereas A New Hope was about this group of multiple people finding that they're heroes through triumph. In Empire, our heroes find failure and they lose at the end of the movie. It is such a distinct story and subject, but in several ways, it is also an extension of everything that happened in the first film.
Thank you guys for watching the video, and I just have to say, the 80s were such a good decade for movies. Heck, even making a top 30, I've had to make some painful cuts, and the 80s were just so good, and I hope you guys noticed that, because there's some movies that I really want to have in the honorable mention. but there's just so many good movies from the 80s. And with that being out of the way, once again, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in my next video.